there are obviously then some benefits to multiplication.
Yes.
So what are those?
Life.
That's right.
Life.
Yeah.
The Lord is adding to their number day by
fun.
day. Those are being saved.
That's
Acts
right.
2:47. That's going to happen.
Right.
When you're obedient to the Lord and you're
Right.
seeking to do it. But in that context of Acts 2, they were caring for each other in deep, intimate ways.
Right.
But the Lord was adding to their number. So life and then life and growth are the same thing. It's not just that you're alive. Here's the thing about the church. The church only gets old when it doesn't multiply.
Right.
Welcome to the podcast Distinct People, Distinct Time, where we have a conversation about congregational life in the 21st century. I'm today's host, Pastor Jeff Long, and with me is local disciple-making pastor at Parkwood, Scott Haynes. Scott, thanks for joining me yet again to discuss growth groups. So we kind of culminate our discussion today, continuing to walk through the areas of growth group by talking about multiplication. So we've been looking at this diagram throughout the
Right.
series of discussions.
Right.
So now we look at it, it's in entirety. Gospel-centered growth groups, spiritual growth, growing people in the faith, one anothering each other, which requires community.
Right.
And thinking about the community in which you live, which leads to mission and being on mission with your neighbors. When that happens, the health of that leads to multiplication, which ought to lead to multiplication.
Right. Very intentional diagram.
Right. So that we want to see gospel-centered multiplication. We don't want to just grow for the sake of growing.
Right.
In other words, we don't just want more growth groups. We want gospel-centered
Exactly.
growth groups. So what do we mean by multiplication?
Okay, so in a very practical sense, it means one of two things. Either you have a current growth group and some people from that group leave the group with a new leader from that group, and they begin a new growth group. So that group has grown to where they multiply. So people leave from that group to start a new group. Or it could be the current leader of the current group leaves with a group of people to start a new group. And the original group is led by a new leader. So it's still multiplying, but the leader has now left instead of staying.
And either way, you have to have apprentices.
Right.
Right. You have to have a leading apprentice, a growth group leader, the teacher, and you also have host home apprentice. You have to have both.
Exactly.
So this is not going to happen.
Right. You have to have a new leader and a new host home.
Yeah. So it's a preemptive discussion, a preemptive thought. So why do we care about this? Why is this so important to us?
Well, my simple answer, Jeff, is because we care about the lost. That's really what multiplication is for. It is because we want to get the gospel to every corner of Gaston County. That's why we want to multiply. It's not because we care about making more Parkwood growth groups or we want to make our name bigger or we want to grow just for the sake of growing. It's because there are people in Gastonia, believe it or not, who will be born and will live and will die and will never have anyone tell them about the gospel, which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
But we're in a post-Christian culture, and that's going to happen. There are some of my neighbors that we've met that don't know anything about the Bible, God, church, anything. I mean, they are clueless. It's like I'm talking to people overseas that are raised in a non-Christian culture.
Yeah. And you live in Lowell.
Right. I live in Lowell, North Carolina. You wouldn't think that would be the case. So we care about the lost. We care about getting the gospel to the lost. So I have some other diagrams or some things that I want to kind of walk us through to help us see exactly what I mean. How does multiplication get the gospel like out? So this first picture is of my street. So see me or you, that's my house right there. That's where I live. So when you
have a growth group at your house.
Yes, sorry. Okay. I'm the host home. My wife and I, we're the host home for my growth group that meets here in Lowell in this neighborhood. So, when you look at my neighbors, this is an Indian family. He's a retired Indian doctor. They're nominal Hindus, so they don't really practice, don't really know about God or Christianity much at all. This is a homosexual couple, two men that live together and have been hurt by Southern Christian culture.
Okay.
So maybe not real Christians, but in their mind, they've been hurt by Southern Christian culture. This is a family. They've got 3 sons, school-age kids, and they are moralistic, good people.
Okay.
They don't go to church, don't want to go to church, but they raise their kids to live good lives and to make good decisions and not do bad things, right? My neighbor to the right is a single Polish man who's a nominal Catholic. He's in his 50s, was raised overseas in Poland as a Catholic, but doesn't care about the church now at all. So what's the common denominator with all these people?
Yeah. Well, they don't know the Lord.
They don't know the Lord or anything about the Lord, right? Right. And this is in Lowell, North Carolina. These are people that we have gotten to know. So as our growth group meets there at my house, we are praying for these people. We are engaging them for during holidays, during the rhythm weeks. We do multiple things throughout every month to try to meet their needs, to get to know them, to build relationships with them, and to share the gospel with them. And we've been able, through the Lord's grace, to share the gospel with many of them. But this is one growth group in one neighborhood. So the next picture I have is my entire neighborhood.
Wow.
So this is every home in my neighborhood. There's my house, my growth group right there. Yeah. Now, what if we multiply, Jeff, and we put a growth group right here?
Used to be one there.
Yeah. There did. You're right. And then what if we multiplied and put one right there, right?
Right.
As we begin to influence the people around us, it's going to take us a long time by ourselves to reach the whole neighborhood. But if we had multiple growth groups in this neighborhood who are all reaching out with the gospel, pretty soon, it wouldn't take very long for the entire neighborhood to be reached with the gospel. So we are trying to multiply. We care about multiplication because we care about the lost. But this is one neighborhood in all of Gaston County.
Yeah.
So now let's go to the next picture. My neighborhood.
Right.
All of Gaston County.
Right.
Look at all the neighborhoods that are here.
Right.
Right. So we multiply because we care about all of these neighborhoods all around here. We care that they get to hear the gospel.
That's right.
So the next picture is this is actually encouraging, I think, but these are all of our host homes. So this is Gaston County. These are all of our growth groups.
Wow.
So think about this. This is mine. What if we multiplied multiple times out here? What if the one in Ranlow multiplied? What if all of these multiplied? You can see how this is actually doable.
It is doable.
It's not an unforeseen, impossible thing that we're asking. It's actually feasible.
And it's happened. So you can see there's multiple in that neighborhood there.
Right
There's
there.
multiple there. There's multiple here, multiple here. So it's happened.
Exactly. It's been happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And none of this is heartbreaking. I mean, they're just.
Right.
Now, I know we planted a church in Kings Mountain, but still, all this area. Wow.
Right. So why do we care about multiplication? Because we care about the lost. We want to see this map filled with growth groups, with healthy, gospel-centered growth groups who are reaching out to their neighbors with the gospel. That's how Gastonia will be reached, I think. So I'm super excited about this. I don't know if you can tell, this is missionary talk, missionary language, missionary strategy, methodology. I mean, this is why I wake up in the morning. I love this stuff. And I love working at Parkwood. I love my job. But some people, and there have been some resistance to this idea of multiplication. It's been a struggle in some areas and in some time. So I want to ask you, as a pastor here for 20 plus 25, 8 years, help me understand why it's in front of everybody. Help me understand why this is a bit of a struggle.
Well, the first thing is the language that's normally used. You're going to split our growth group. Split's a negative word. It's a painful word.
Right.
You think split family.
Right.
And I think that's how some people see it. You're splitting our family up. You are dividing us. And we try to use this language, birth, not split. Right. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But when we have these community situation, we're experiencing community around spiritual growth, around the gospel, then people build tight relationships and love each other.
Which is good.
But we don't stop here.
Right.
That's why we have drawn this out so people can see it, that mission is a part of what we're doing, and that we're not experiencing Christian community, we're experiencing in the midst of others. So we want to have a sending culture. We want to send people away, not just in their growth groups to go start another one. We want to do that congregationally.
Right.
We want to do that with individuals.
Right.
Drives a lot of things. Great commission team, leadership development. I mean, we want to be a sending culture. And if we see everything as my relationship got hurt, we're missing the intent of the gospel and God's design for how people go with the gospel.
That's true. And we've said it earlier, it's not just a bunch of friends hanging out reading the Bible.
That's right.
You're on a mission.
Right.
There's more to it than that. That's a part of it, yes, but there's more to it than that. So do you have an illustration or something that you can help us, help Parkwood think about this in a kind of a easier way to understand? Because I think you're right. Anytime there's multiplication, it's hard for people to handle because there is some inevitable things that happen. Your friends are going to leave. And so, I don't know.
Yeah. So how do you get more families? Your kids get married.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah, right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I've experienced one in January. Likely there's going to be another one this year because Mary Claire and Ryland just got engaged.
Right.
So the multiplication of my family happens not just we're having more kids.
That's
now.
Right.
The family is expanding. So there's two things that we've experienced over the last several months and even days. It's pain and joy. So there ought to be some pain. I mean, I'm not overly thrilled that my daughters are leaving.
Right.
I mean, that hurts. You wake up in the morning, you miss the conversations and the cup of coffee, and you miss just having them around. But at the same time, there's joy. There's joy that they have found the men that God has for them, that they're establishing their lives. I love to hear the stories on a regular basis when they call or when they come and they're telling us everything that's going on in their life. So that same thing should happen. There should be some pain because you ought to have developed a relationship that you love each other.
Right, exactly.
But you're not asking everybody to go at once, or even people to go by themselves. This works best when part of the group goes.
Exactly.
So you already have that built-in love, that care. But it is hard. We know a lot of the groups do reunions. They get together and have cookouts and stuff to celebrate. And there's been some really joyful times. But the joy of reproducing. So this hadn't happened yet. And but marriage normally produces what?
Kids.
That's natural.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So you think about it like that too. Growth groups ought to produce children.
Right.
That's why we use the word birth.
Right. Exactly.
So as another group goes, it ought to birth again, and that's how we ought to see the gospel continue to grow.
Man, that's awesome. And when you think about it too, you and Celeste have raised your kids to one day find godly spouses, leave the home, and then reproduce what you did with them.
That's right. That's the desire.
Right? So there's tremendous joy in that. Right? And what if you didn't do that? What if because you didn't want the pain, you did not let them get married? Like, think about how unhealthy that would be.
It would be. And they'd still be at home. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but culturally some of this is going on.
Right.
That kids aren't leaving and we're afraid and all that.
But it's the result of good parenting. It's the goal, right?
It is the goal.
And so it's the same with our growth groups. Yeah. That's the goal. And so I think a lot of people want to just hide and say, I just want to have my friend group. We're healthy. We don't want to be bothered, but that's not the goal. The ultimate goal is what we said, to get the gospel out. So we kind of hit on this like a little bit, but what are the consequences of not multiplying or of avoiding multiplication? We talked a little bit about it, but go into some more detail.
Well, if we don't multiply, if we take that attitude congregationally, then there'll be no growth. The church will not grow.
Church,
And one day we're all going to wake up and realize the same people are here. And then eventually, because of age, we're going to wake up one day and realize there are fewer of us here. And you begin to dwindle away. One of the other consequences is outsiders are seen as a threat. If some people could be listening to this from Parkwood and say, "Oh no, I see what's going to happen." And new people come in our group, then they're going to encourage us to multiply. So then you become defensive, and you don't want outsiders. That's anti-gospel.
That's not the gospel.
I mean, that's just antithetical to being a Christian. And the other consequence, you don't think about your neighbors.
Right.
I mean, Scott, you've obviously thought about your neighbors. You care and pray for them. You described them.
Yeah.
You didn't describe them as unclean people or people you don't love. You love these people.
Yeah.
I've seen you break down more than once
Yeah.
over them. You love them. You know them. You want them to know the Lord. Right. But whether they come to know the Lord, you're still your neighbors, and you're going to treat them like a neighbor.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
so we want to be kind to our neighbors.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. So there are obviously then some benefits to multiplication.
Yes.
So what are those?
Life.
That's right.
Life.
Yeah.
The Lord is adding to their number day by day. Those are being saved.
That's
Acts
right.
2:47. That's going to happen.
Right.
When you're obedient to the Lord and you're
Right.
seeking to do it. But in that context of Acts 2, they were caring for each other in deep, intimate ways.
Right. Right.
But the Lord was adding to their number. So life and growth are the same thing. It's not just that you're alive. Here's the thing about the church. The church only gets old when it doesn't multiply.
Right. Right.
So as long as it grows, God continues to grow. And here's some passages here. Ephesians 4:16. The whole body joined and held together, and every joint by which it is equipped, when each part is working properly, makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love. So love is the key.
Right. Right.
But it builds itself up. And then this text in Colossians, which we read both of these at our new member commissionings. It says, the whole body nourished and knit together through its joints and ligaments grows with a growth that is from God. So I want to ask everybody at Parkwood, everybody part of a growth group, do you want a growth that is from God? Why would you not want that?
Why would you not? Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah.
Why would you not want God's blessing
right.
on seeing your neighbors, seeing your coworkers, seeing your kids' friends, their families come to faith? I want a growth that is from God. I don't want a growth I manufactured.
Right. Right.
Now, this illustration is dangerous, Scott.
What's that?
But a growth group could either be a nursing home or a neighborhood.
Okay.
Now, I love nursing homes. Right. I love older people. And some of the most joyful moments in my life have been in the nursing home with my grandmother.
Sure, sure.
But everybody knows what's coming soon.
In a nursing home.
In a nursing home.
Yeah, that's right.
But in a neighborhood, there's life and death.
Right. Yep.
There's young and old.
That's good.
There's life.
Yeah.
There's growth.
Yeah.
So you want to be a part of the neighborhood and you want to reflect the neighborhood. We want to grow with the growth that is from God. And God's designed all this. He's given us the gospel and told us to love our neighbor.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, when this happens, it is so invigorating. It is exciting because you see the Lord at work and you're just like, why would I not want to be a part of that?
That's right.
I want to be a part of that. I want us all to be a part of that. So, that's good.
I want to thank you for championing this, for continuing to lead in this. And I pray that the Lord's going to do what we just read, that He's going to give us a growth that is from God.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been an episode of Distinct People, Distinct Time, a ministry of Parkwood Baptist Church where we exist to glorify God by laboring together for the growth of all believers while going with the gospel to all peoples. You can learn more about Parkwood by going to parkwoodonline.org, and you can find resources like this one from the church by going to parkwoodresources.org.